Part 2 of alternate timelines, alternate realities, alternate universes, and multiple planets and stuff. I'm James Williams Jr. We're going to come for arc number 2. So I'm going to bring this up because I'm really concerned about the timeline in Terminator. So I'm looking at this from the X-Men universe because I mostly read X-Men, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Spider-Man. So I know for a fact that all of those guys have dealt with people from alternate timelines, alternate universes, alternate worlds, alternate dimensions, which is why I can explain it better with Marvel than I could with DC if you watched the last video. So here we go. My first experience in Marvel with alternate timelines, alternate universes, ultimate everything that has something to do with a time, the concept of time, another universe, another dimension, another planet, because I don't want to repeat this shit anymore to this video. Hopefully you guys got all that. Okay, good. First experience was Rachel Summers in Secret Wars, the first Secret Wars, when she came through and all of the Marvel universes crossed over in Secret Wars. So Rachel Summers came through. The only person who knew who she was and where she was from, besides Kitty Pryde and who she told, was Charles Xavier. The reason why she never told Scott, because Scott had married Madeline prior, which didn't happen in her timeline, alternate universe, alternate reality, whichever. It didn't happen in her timeline, because in her timeline, it's always been Scott and Jean Grey. You understand? And her world was ravaged by the Warhounds. I'm pretty sure no one remembers them, but they were the silver dog hawk-looking things. Not dark hawks, but the Warhounds. They were metallic silver. They shine like Colossus, and they were hunting her down. Okay. So by the time the Secret Wars 2 came, because at the end of that Secret Wars, Rachel Summers went home. She also possessed the power of the Phoenix. But for some reason, she never used it in her own alternate timeline and all that other stuff. But when she got it for Secret Wars or whatever, she was using it, which was some shit I couldn't understand. But somehow, when she went home, she got captured by the Warhawks. Hounds. So I'm like, what? How the fuck does this happen? You're like the Phoenix, dude. But it did happen. Now, being that everything I'm telling you happens before the most recent retconning of Marvel, just so we get that past all the other stuff, before there was a Rachel Grey and all the other stuff, before the New Mutants met the New Mutants who were themselves only younger when they went through time to go and correct that, because the New Mutants have also gone through time and met their future selves, which they were not impressed with, because some of them were hawky and badasses, and some of them were just there. No. And then they had told the New Mutants of who was going to die and who wasn't going to make it and that kind of stuff. And the New Mutants like, it's better that you don't give us too much more about that. And then next thing you know, when they all came back, Danielle Moonstar became a Valkyrie and never came back to the New Mutants until X-Force came into existence. You feel where I'm going with that? So, in that, the same thing can be said when Spider-Man met Doppelganger. Now, because Spider-Man met Doppelganger. Doppelganger was the Peter Parker from another world with 8 arms, etc., etc. So did y'all don't get that confused with the Peter Parker who drank the serum that Craven's girlfriend made that turned him into the 8-armed Spider-Man. Okay, now we got that out of the way. And Doppelganger was basically like Jack, like Venom, only not with the Venom symbiote. He just had the long tongue and the 6 arms. You know, because he had 6 arms and he had 2 legs, so they made him Spider-Man. Anyway, other X-Men that have come from alternate timelines, alternate dimensions, alternate futures, and things like that. Longshot came from the TV world. He joined the X-Men to get their help to go back into the TV world, where they were also made mockeries of, and they were turned into X-Babies. And X-Babies was pretty cool. For those who remember X-Babies, they were pretty cool. And then, you have Shatterstar, who is Dazzler and Longshot's child from the alternate timeline, alternate dimension, and alternate reality, etc., etc. And then you have Nate Gray. And you have Rachel Summers and Rachel Grey, who essentially may be the same person. But, you know, you get that. See, Marvel has it complicated. At one time, when there was a writer's strike, all the X titles were basically changed to EX, except Excalibur, because Excalibur had the fortunate reality of being canceled when all the writers pretty much gave Marvel the finger because they wasn't getting their royalties and stuff. So then you went from X-Men, X-Force, Uncanny X-Men, X Factor, all of them had titles like Exiles, EXC something or another, X this, X that, but it was spelled EX, while all this stuff was litigating in court. Okay, now the Exiles, which I think was X Force, because Warpath was in that group, and they went to alternate worlds, alternate timelines, alternate dimensions to do things because the 616 was basically destroyed. And so, since Scarlet Witch had destroyed the 616 also, or something in that nature happened with the 616 during the writer's strike, so I'm probably wrong on the Scarlet Witch thing because that came like later in the 2000s. But in the 90s, the mid 2000s, late 90s, that kind of shit started going on. And that's about like the time where McFarlane, Liefeld, Lee, and the other 3 or 4 guys just decided to say fuck it, and they left because they wasn't getting their acknowledgments or whatever, or their royalties or their payments for the improvements that they did to certain characters. And amongst them came a Nathan Gray. Nathan Gray, the only X-Man known as X-Man, who had the same abilities and powers as Cable, except for his powers, he also had the legacy virus. He also had to hold his body together. He was like, fuck, what is the guy's name? The Inhuman leader. Bolt, Black Bolt, whatever, the guy that if he speaks, he can destroy the world. That guy. So, he kind of had powers like that, you know. And the Beyonder and the other Beyonders and all the other things, these things were coming through. And there's the Living Tribunal, all these other people coming from alternate timelines. Let's move on to Guardians of the Galaxy. Alright, so before there was Rocket, Groot, and Gamora, and Drax, who were totally nothing like the people they looked like, including Star-Lord. Star-Lord used to have long blonde hair, and so they like totally rebooted all of those guys. But we're not going to go with them. We're going to go with Yondu and Major Victory. Now, Major Victory is one I can tell you as a fan, he has gone through the alternate timeline, alternate world, alternate dimension, alternate reality, hell. Because in one of the 616 comics, he came through time. It's like one of Vance Astro's first meetings with him. And he told him, when Vance was still going by Vance Astrovac, when Vance was still running the gambit like Spider-Man of being a wrestler instead of a superhero with his telekinetic powers. And he had the old blue and white suit on, where he met Vance Astro, a.k.a. Major Victory. And Major Victory had warned him about possible futures and stuff like that, because this Major Victory was not from the 616, but like from 34 something or another, planet something or another. And in his time, mutants no longer could live on Earth. He never explained why, but as of recent writings, it kind of like was foreshadowing the shit that's coming up into this generation, where mutants could no longer live on Earth. And he fought other mutants in space with Yondu and the Guardians of the Galaxy. He fought Wolverine's descendant. I can't think of her name, but she was one of his main antagonists. And her and Tigra were like the biggest war rivalry. And she wanted Wolverine's adamantium skeleton. So she squandered and plundered the universe. And finally, they had a big fight over it. I can't remember how the fight came out because I had to go through all my comics downstairs in the basement to find the shit. And then try to read it and then try to do the report. But anyway, long story short, Vance Astro has been frozen 2 or 3 times because his story is kind of a shadow of Captain America. Not Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, Captain America, not Falcon, and not the guy that came before both of them who I didn't know existed, but Steve Rogers, the original Steve Rogers. Not Old Man Rogers from the different timeline, just like Old Man Logan, none of that. All Steve Rogers. He was frozen, he was a soldier, only he was like in the Air Force, I think, because he became an astronaut, he got frozen, he got lost in space, they found him, they thawed him out, and his problem was that if he took off the suit, he was aging exceptionally fast, so they found the suit, they kept him on, and he's been through 3 or 4 different suits to make sure that his age progression slowed down. Then they gave him a cure to that, or they completely retconned it, one of the two, I can't really remember, but they gave him a cure to that, so when he took off the Captain America mask, because he replicated that Captain America suit. That's the ones that I've shown you guys in the comics. That's why I did that for my Facebook page and all that stuff. Because Vance Astro did that, and he had found the original Captain America shield. And somehow or another, I don't remember how the hell he got the shield. Because for the first few times when we reading the comic, he didn't have the shield. And then he got the shield. Then he got frozen and he came out of the ice and he said, what year is this? And what dimension is this? So apparently he's been through some shit. That's the long and short of Major Victory. Now, for other people, like other X-Men and other things, all entities of Marvel have either met their alternate selves and have fought them, or they have somehow had things go on. Even the New Warriors have gone through this because of some time warps and some black magic from Egypt and had the New Warriors change and everything around, and all the other things that happened where it crossed over on all the comics where their alternate selves were females instead of males, and all the other stuff that was going around. But they were the same people, they just had different genders and different ethnicities and all the other shit. So it has been done before. But when it comes to alternate timelines and clusterfucks like this, you get twisted. And I brought this up because of the simple fact that I'm going to have to make a third video about the Star Trek shit. But, you know, for the most part, when you're dealing with Marvel and DC, they are the kings and queens of time travel, timelines, alternate realities, alternate Earths, alternate universes, alternate this, that, whatever the hell have you. But when you look into that, a lot more of the X-Men have gone through that than the Avengers, the Inhumans, Solo people, Captain Canuck. All of them, Alpha Flight, and them haven't really had to deal with timelines. Now, alternate versions of themselves they've had to combat. And, you know, it's one of the things that it's interesting storytelling. You know, so Marvel will never run out of stories to make movies out of. And now that they've probably introduced us to the multiverse, you know, you're going to have a lot of different ways to have superheroes, even if you have to tokenize a few. I'm James Williams Jr., this is Comic Fabric number 2. Please go to my third video about Star Trek's concept of time travel and timelines and everything that I don't want to have to mention again. Be seeing you.